what really has been particular about this place is that you see the worst of the humanity with the conflict, with the destruction, but you see also the best of humanity. Because in the middle of this destruction, in the middle of the misery, in the middle of war, you see a lot of dignity. You see a lot of the resilience that the people show you. You see a lot of fight and the struggle to keep yourself afloat, regardless of circumstances. And I think this is what we should be seeing as well about the conflict in Syria, about the people in Syria. It's not only the numbers of refugees, these are the human beings.
شوفوا لي اول شيء بالقطاع ادريس قطاع ادريس.
What happened really is that I was kicked out from the school and I realized I really need to learn Arabic, so I went out to the street. I moved to the very kind of popular districts. I met wonderful people, shopkeepers and stuff who engaged with me on conversation. I learned Arabic, but I ran out of money, so I needed to find a job. I started volunteering first for the United Nations and stuff, and then I was actually hired for one of the humanitarian organizations who are going on the Syrian-Iraq border to help the people who are displaced from Iraq war. And I realized in the age of 24, maybe doing the PhD is not the best course of action for me at that very time. I met people who showed me great kindness in these places, in the most kind of difficult situation, kind of stuck in the desert, in the 50-degree heat, terrible conditions and stuff, and yet they show the humanity. And then I realized that's what I want to do. I want to be a humanitarian. I stayed, I started working for UNICEF, then I moved from UNICEF to International Committee of the Red Cross to be even closer to the people, and it's a very beautiful organization, and this is what I have been doing for the past 10 years now. And then we go and we visit a place as the humanitarian organization. The International Red Cross try always to kind of study the needs of the people, study also the infrastructure in place. So we go and we visit this kind of this town in the middle, kind of on the outskirts of Damascus, and there's huge destruction, a lot of poverty, misery, kind of desperation, and then we see this woman standing in the middle of the vegetable kind of garden. She's growing, trying to grow there this very little food for her and her family, and there's nothing there except a tomato. And we are there, group of humanitarians. She takes this tomato and offers it to us. And this is exactly what this humanity that those people are able to show. In the middle of the crisis, in the middle of the misery, they have the guests. They want to offer something, and they go for it, even if it's the last supplies. This is where we, as communicators for humanitarian organizations, overlap with journalists a lot. We are there to tell those stories. We don't really do it for fundraising. We don't do it for a headline. We do it to restore the dignity for these people, to show to the world that there are people behind these front lines. They have stories to tell. These stories are important, and that this awareness on the situations of individuals needs to be raised. And I think this is what has been my experience. Behind the front line, we really strive to tell people's stories, and by this to kind of show to the world, that the conflicts, the world conflicts, have the human face. But there is also the other side of this. We do it because of the people who share those stories with us. At the end of the day, when you come as a humanitarian organization, like in Syria, you come in a convoy of 50, 60 trucks, very often you have to cross the front lines, you pass the buffer zones, it's difficult, sometimes it's dangerous, we were shot at, we were shelled, you go through very sketchy kind of areas. As the International Committee of the Red Cross, we have to negotiate, with multiple actors on the ground, multiple armed groups, our access. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And then you get there and you meet the people and you see that they've been waiting, that for them your presence is important. Not only because of the supplies that you bring, but also because, talking to them, understanding their needs, it's also with what gives them their dignity back. It's not that there is always smile. I never forget this place on the outskirts of Damascus called Madaya, where in I think November 2016, I believe, or December 2016, we kind of managed to negotiate the access after months, and where 40,000 people has been kind of besieged and deprived of food supplies for weeks. And then you enter with the supplies, and then you see 40,000 people hungry, staring at you, too weak to smile, waiting. And what was the most important in this particular experience, it's not what they ask us about the supplies we brought. It was the question, one question that they asked: when are you coming next time? My wife is Muslim, I'm Muslim myself, I speak Arabic, so it's always easier to be in Arabic-speaking country where you understand the language. But I also work in South Sudan and in Burundi, and I think really understanding the people and trying really to connect also at non-verbal level is what is equally important for this. But Middle East is definitely very close to my heart. It's where I have been. It's what shaped me as a human being, as a professional, as a humanitarian. We are very often, thanks to our neutrality, thanks to our way of working, we're often granted a very privileged access to very difficult places. And I think we have the moral responsibility for the people that we meet in those places. And I think that is why we are there. Even if the war ended the day after, we would be dealing with the consequences of it for decades to come, and this is what is happening. Unfortunately, the war hasn't ended in Syria. Kind of ask this question: how Malaysian should approach the Syrian conflict? I think the most important thing is just to be aware of the scale of humanitarian needs, and not to forget that thousands of kilometers away there is a country like Syria. There are areas affected by conflict, there is fighting going on, there is displacement going on, there are people living in the camps, and each of those people have the story to tell, each of these people have the needs to be met. And I think this kind of every little contribution, be it financial but also moral, that's what really matters. But there is the other kind of way of supporting. It's this moral support. It's really to kind of keeping this pressure, this kind of collective memory going. And I think here a crucial role journalists play. I mean, you guys are this kind of main vector of collective memory to make sure that the world will not forget about the people in Syria. And I think that's as equally important as the money that are being donated. As Nelson Mandela said, it's not about this good that the ICRC and the humanitarians are able to do, but it's the bad, the evil that we are kind of trying to prevent. This is what is really important, and being kind of, the connection to the world for those people, it's where you really understand this value of humanity that you are bringing in. And I really encourage everyone who feels that they want to try this, to join a humanitarian organization like this, because it's a beautiful, wonderful feeling, I have to say.